Welcome to Frank Stajano Explains. Today's topic is how many top-tier universities should you be applying to in parallel? This video was triggered by a recent question on one of the videos in my outreach series, where a viewer asked me, can I apply to both Oxford and Cambridge for an undergraduate degree in computer science? Well, I didn't know at the time, but it turns out it's not allowed. This person seemed to be quite upset about it and commented, "It's very, very unfair." Well, as I said, when I read the question I had no idea it was forbidden, but now that I know that it is, I must say it makes perfect sense, and I believe it's in everyone's interest to disallow this practice. It's broadly the same idea as when we forbid the selfish and wasteful practice of submitting the same scientific paper in parallel to several related academic conferences. Now, why would any candidate want to apply to several top-tier universities in parallel? Surely you must have one place you think is more suited to you than the others, right? If you could go to any of those top places without any constraints, where would you want to go? It's something you will have to figure out sooner or later, because even if you were so brilliant that you got an offer from all of them, ultimately there's only one of you, and you can only go to one. So you might as well figure it out before applying instead of after, and optimize for the place where you truly want to go. If you really can't decide whether Oxford or Cambridge is better for you, just go to Oxford and leave Cambridge to those who have already understood why Cambridge is the best place for them. Now, imagining, for example, applying to 4 top places instead of just one multiplies your chances of acceptance by 4, well, that is seriously misguided. Why, I hear you say? Well, think. If the various places you apply to are all in the top tier, say among the best 10 places in the world according to some ranking, okay, well, the various MIT, Harvard, Cambridge, Oxford, Stanford, ETH, Zurich, and usual suspects. So then their standards for acceptance are going to be comparably high, and it's likely that they would either all take you or all reject you. We're not talking about 4 random independent throws of the dice here. Okay, you don't get 4 chances. One for maybe this one didn't work, this one. No, absolutely not. If you're good for one of them, you're probably good for the others. And if you don't make the bar for one of them, you probably also don't make it for the others. Because the difference between them is rather narrow. There will be some variation in judgment, of course, but it's probably much smaller than you think. So, in the end, it's rather pointless to apply to several places. It's a waste of your time and of your mental focus, because you dilute your efforts instead of concentrating to prepare in the best possible way for the admission test of the one place you really want to get into. You want to imagine you are there already. You want to make it as real as possible in your mind, and you want to make it happen. And you can't make it real in your mind if you're flickering between 4 different options. And in any case, it doesn't do you any good, even if you get accepted by all of them, because you don't get any benefits from getting several other acceptance letters besides the one you really want to say yes to, right? And if instead you get rejected, it doesn't do you any good either to be rejected from several other places as well. It's very unlikely that you will be just in the middle of that narrow band where some of the top places thought you were good and some others thought you weren't. The standards of these places are all similarly high, and you are more likely to either meet them all or meet none of them. So what is instead useful is to aim heart and soul for the one place in the top tier that you really want more than any other, even if it's a really long shot. And then also have a much less ambitious plan B of applying in parallel to a lower tier place, still good, but which is much more likely to accept you no matter what. That makes a lot more sense, and that guarantees you that you have your backside covered. The backup plan should be one that's more or less guaranteed to work if the main plan fails. If you apply to Oxford and Cambridge, which are equally demanding, it's very unrealistic to hope that one of them could be the backup in case you're not accepted at the other. If either of them rejects you, chances are that both of them will. Now, aside from that, there's also another consideration. Stop thinking only about your own selfish interest and see what happens to other people as a consequence of your choices. Every person who applies to multiple universities consumes more than their fair share of some finite resources. That's the same consideration as the restriction on parallel application to conferences that I was mentioning at the start. So my college, to make a practical example, has only so many people with sufficient experience and skill to interview candidates in computer science. This fact, and the finite number of interview days available, puts an upper bound on the total number of candidates who can be interviewed. That's pretty obvious, right? And replicating this simple arithmetic at all the institutions of similar caliber that accept people for a degree in computer science gives you the total number of interviews that can be had across all the top institutions in the world. Now, of course, I'm speaking loosely, and this model is not very precise, and there's some leeway, but the concept is that people beyond some number can't be interviewed. Capacity has been reached. Now, a person who applies 4 times, or 2 times, or any number of times greater than 1, and is deemed good enough to be called for interview, greedily uses up more than their fair share of interview slots. This means that someone who from their paperwork looks slightly less qualified than them will not be called for interview, even though they might have been called if everyone had only applied to one place, because there would have been more slots to fill in. And that's just the first stage of the pipeline, just being called for interview. It's even worse further down. If you consider subjects that actually have a numbers cap, like computer science at Cambridge has had for the past few years, then if Trinity College Cambridge makes an offer to a candidate that did well at interview, then that's one offer out of a small fixed number of offers that Trinity is allowed to make for that subject. For example, 12. I mean, I'm making this number up, don't read too much into the number 12, but this means that having issued that one offer out of 12 to that person, then the person ranked 13 will not receive an offer no matter what, because we've exhausted these 12 offers. One of them has gone to that person who actually ends up declining it because they applied to several other places in parallel, but they can only go to one. And so they say, no thanks, Trinity College, that's very kind, but I'm not going to use this. And then they have basically denied entry to that candidate number 13, who would have otherwise got in. And by then, it's too late for Trinity to go back and tell number 13, oh wait, good news, there's a place for you after all, because when number 13 got their own rejection letter from Trinity, then they went on and they accepted some other offer, perhaps, or anyway, they committed to doing something different with their life. So it's just too late, you can't go back. So, in summary, being a fence sitter and applying to several top-tier universities in parallel and deciding later, in the hope of deciding later, is a bad idea. It does you no good. If you get accepted by one, you would probably get accepted by several places in the same tier, and so you will still have to make that difficult choice at some point, and you might as well make that choice before applying, and then optimize your preparation towards the entrance exam of that one place you like the best, rather than diluting your mental focus over several of them. Conversely, if you get rejected by one, you probably get rejected by the others too, so it's very unwise to treat the others as the plan B. The way to have a sensible plan B, if you are unsure whether the top tier place will take you, is to apply to a university at a lower tier, where you have a much higher chance of actually getting in. If you need a plan B, get yourself a plan B that works. And then, as I said, aside from your own selfish viewpoint, by applying to multiple places, you are also greedily wasting resources that would instead benefit others. If you're the top applicant, then when you reject the offers of the other n-1 top tier places you applied to, assuming that there was a numbers cap, then you have wastefully denied entry to n-1 people who could have made good use of those places that were offered to you. If you are not the top applicant, but some of the applicants above you used your selfish strategy, then maybe you get denied a place that you would have otherwise been offered if everyone in the game had only made a single top-tier application. If you are into game theory, then you'll be reminded of the prisoner's dilemma. Do you prefer to be selfish or to cooperate? Which one looks better for you? Which one actually leads to the best overall outcome? But I don't blame you if you think like this. It's just human psychology to have this scarcity mentality and to be unsure of oneself and to want to keep as many doors open as possible for as long as possible before deciding. Even for otherwise great people. Yeah, I've even had students who graduated at the top of the tripos asking me to write letters, recommendation letters for them to 3, 4, half a dozen top-tier universities to do a PhD. Okay, so wait, what? I've urged them to figure it out. Hey, where do you really want to go? I'm going to write you a good letter. Then I'm going to have to argue that you are really the best fit for this specific place. And I can't truthfully say that for half a dozen different places. Which one is it that you really think you fit in best? So this sitting on the fence is just a sign of insecurity. It's the fear of making the wrong choice. It's the fear that after you commit to one option that seems good now, then you will see that another one was actually better. And so this strategy leads to paralysis. You will never have the luxury of perfect information before deciding. You will always have to decide based on incomplete, imperfect information. So look inside yourself, understand what you really want, even with incomplete information. Trust your gut feeling, and then commit fully to one choice, the one that feels the best for you, rather than diluting your concentration over many similar goals. Then believe in yourself. Believe you can do it. See yourself already doing it and make it happen for real. Give it all you have without holding back. In Kendo, we call this total commitment sutemi. Watch my short video on the Japanese way of the sword for a glimpse of where this advice comes from. And if you still have some residual insecurity about your capabilities and you would feel safer with a plan B, then at least get a plan B that's guaranteed to work. Be ambitious with your plan A, but be conservative with your plan B. Having multiple plan A's is basically a nonsensical strategy. If this video made you think and you'd enjoy more like this one, then stick a like on it. If you have any further questions or comments, put them below. Thank you for watching and see you next time.